Welcome, everybody. My name is David Rind, and I'm the Director of Growth for ZBT, Jewish Fraternity. Should be one of the few times I say ZBT. The point of this conversation here is to be able to share more with Jewish students about what it's like to be a Jewish student on a college campus, how you can get involved, and also talk a little bit about Greek life on a college campus and how it's potentially integrated with the Jewish community on campus. We've got some great panelists today here to talk to you about their experience with students and some campus-based professionals and potentially organization professionals. So I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves, and then we'll go ahead and get started with some questions. If anybody does have any questions that's in the audience and would like to get some answers, please feel free to put it in the chat throughout the conversation. So we'll go ahead and get started with Matan. Matan, if you could tell us who you are, what university you attend or college you attend, and what you love about the Jewish community on campus.
Sure. Thank you for having me, David. My name is Matan Kogan. I am a brother of the Untitled Chapter at Muhlenberg College. And my favorite thing about Jewish life on campus is really the communal aspect of it. At Muhlenberg, it's a small college already, so people already feel pretty close to each other. But within the Jewish community, there is even more of that. Everyone really welcomes everyone else, be them from different streams of Judaism or from the same stream of Judaism, to all kinds of activities, day in and day out, weekdays and weekends, Shabbat and holidays. There are always different ways that everyone in the Jewish community at Muhlenberg seems to help everyone else try to feel involved and connected.
Thank you, Matan. Rabbi Mendy.
Mendy Felig, entering a 20th year running the Chabad at the University of Miami. And I would say the best part of Jewish life on campus is a real sense of family and a real sense of responsibility. I think the Jewish community plays a vital role in all aspects of the health of campus life. And just great to be able to be a part of that and bring people together and introduce people. And there's nothing more gratifying than, hearing later on that people met for the first time at a Chabad event or at a Jewish event. And the friendships that are created are unbelievable. And most of the time you don't even know that it's happened. It's just kind of happening on its own. And that's really just a tremendous feeling.
Thank you, Mendy. Brandon.
Hey, I'm Brendan Gerardi. I'm from Boca Raton, Florida, and I attend the University of Florida. Something I love about Jewish life at the University of Florida, or pretty much any college campus, is that wherever you're going, when you're in class or at the gym, you're diversifying, you're meeting all kinds of different people. But when you get to come back to Hillel, Chabad, or any aspect of Jewish life on campus, you're coming back to people that you can really just from the start relate to. And it's just, as everyone said, like a community that you can rely on no matter what.
Rachel.
I'm Rachel. I work at Hillel International on the Immersive Israel Experiences team, and we provide a ton of opportunities to go to Israel with your campus, with your Hillel on campus, or nationally, you can meet people from a bunch of different campuses and universities through Birthright or Onward, or a ton of other experiences provided by Hillel International.
Thanks, Rachel. And finally, Nava.
Hi everyone, I'm Nava Kogan. I am the Director of Student Life at Columbia Barnard Hillel. I really love every aspect of my work with the Jewish community, but especially the fact that it is a supportive space for students to explore learning and growth without any grades at the end of the day, without any sense of pressure. There's a lot of pressure that can exist in the college environment, and Hillel can just be a space to relax, explore, learn, and grow just for the sake of learning.
Awesome. Thank you all for the amazing introduction. We'll go ahead and get started. I'll just ask a variety of different questions, and for anyone who wants to answer, I'll definitely feel free to just go ahead and answer. Some questions might be more targeted towards people as they come in, but if you have an answer, feel free to jump in. So our first question is, what are some ways Jewish students can get involved in Jewish life on campus?
I'll jump in here. I'll start it off.
Go for it, Rabbi.
I think, every campus is going to be a little bit different. So I think it's important to understand that everyone's experience is going to be really tailored to how a particular campus is run. Schedules are different, expectations are different, and this year all bets are off the table because nobody really knows yet exactly how any of this is all going to play itself out. So I think the initial thing of how a student can get involved, when you show up and you say, I'm interested, I might be interested, I don't know if I'm interested, but this could be an interest, anything that brings you inside to a Jewish organization is how you get involved. And then you have to see how it plays itself out, the people that you meet, what kind of opportunities they have, and how that works with your actual schedule of classes, how it works with the other activities that you want to pursue on campus. So I really think what's great about a campus experience is that the organizations are really set up to work with each individual to kind of tailor make their experience. So while there is a collective experience, there's also the ability to create your own individual experience. And that's what makes it really, really special.
I think those are great points. And I just want to go even one step further back and say, absolutely, every campus varies so widely when it comes to Jewish life offerings. And if you're watching this and you're someone who's still exploring your options and thinking about where you might want to go to school, when you visit campuses, when you're looking at websites, when you're making phone calls, depending on how the college search process works this year, explore what Jewish life offerings there are. What I always say to students who call, who email, who come to visit for a tour, you don't know what you're going to want when you get to campus. You want to explore all your options and make sure something is there waiting for you if and when you want to take advantage of it. The freedom of college means nobody's going to force you to be involved in anything that you don't want to be involved in. But if you find once you're on campus that you're looking for that Jewish space, you want to know that it's there. And the other thing I would say is, if something isn't there, if it doesn't exist, whether it's Hillel, Chabad, an independent organization, an academic Jewish organization, whatever it may be, or a Greek organization that may not exist on your campus, you have the opportunity to create it. There can often be a sense on many campuses that the way things are done is the way they've always been done. 25% of a campus population turns over every year. So you can create something new if it doesn't exist on your campus. And if there's something that you want out of your Jewish experience on campus that you don't see, you can make it happen. And there are people on campus like myself, like Rabbi Felig, who can help make that happen for you.
I can jump in too and say that Hillel, knowing that everything is kind of up in the air right now for different campuses, there's a program called Hillel at Home where you can do virtual programming, or you can connect with the University Hillel where you want to go to school and see what programming they have that way. Some are offering virtual tours of their Hillels as well. So it's a great way to start getting involved with Jewish life ahead of time and hopefully plan for your summer trip on Birthright or an onward experience so you can do an immersive program and meet other people on campus as well.
Awesome, thank you. So this question is more geared towards our undergraduate brothers. What are some activities that Jewish students get involved in on campus?
I'll start. So for UF at least, it could be anything from Hillel does Cheesy Wednesday where we all just get together and eat grilled cheese to, like I mentioned earlier when we were talking, something I did called Leaders of Change through Hillel, where it was for the whole fall semester, just something that we met up as a group, talked about different social justice issues. It can really just come at you any way you want it to. It'll pretty much find you. If you're really passionate about Israel, there's all kinds of organizations that focus on Israel. And just, like I said, it'll just find you pretty much.
This year, I had the privilege to participate in a lot of different Jewish experiences on campus. I participated in Beit Midrash Jewish Learning Program at Hillel, an Israel-oriented Jewish learning program, or not necessarily Jewish, but an Israel-oriented program at Hillel. a Jewish learning program at Chabad called Sinai Scholars, and lots of other stuff too. Shabbat dinners, services. I feel like at most colleges and universities, the staff of Jewish organizations are there because they care about the students and are there to really facilitate meaningful experiences for students. And I think at some colleges and universities, they do better jobs than at others. But across the board, there is that piece of wanting to provide for students. And so if you find yourself on campus and you find yourself wanting something, there is support there. Approach your Hillel and Chabad professional staff and say, I'm interested in starting XYZ. Maybe get some friends with you who are also interested in starting X, Y, or Z, and suddenly you have a new activity.
Yeah, I was honestly one of those students that, I mean, these guys were much more active than I was, but I was more of the Shabbat dinner kind of person. And so in terms of activities, there's very much, I think on many campuses, if not most, a Shabbat dinner that's available for students on a weekly basis. So plenty of opportunities that I'm sure we'll continue to talk more about. So I'd love to ask the age-old question that I know I didn't really know how to answer when I went to college, but what are the differences between Hillel and Chabad? We see that Rabbi Mendy has a beard, and obviously Nava and Rachel don't have beards. So what could students see that might be different? I mean, it's not the same on every campus, but what are some things that could be different that would differentiate the different student that might go to one versus the other? I hope that wasn't too controversial.
Not at all. Not at all. I think this is a similar question to the first question in that it varies so widely from campus to campus. There are campuses that have sometimes smaller Jewish populations or better established Jewish populations that have one organization or another. It could be Hillel or Chabad. It could be a totally independent, separate Jewish Student Union program. And then there are campuses where they have both Hillel and Chabad that operate sometimes in concert with one another and sometimes independent of one another. I think the relationship between a Hillel and a Chabad varies from campus to campus. What you'll find in both spaces are professionals, rabbis, educators, people that are looking to help facilitate the Jewish experience that you're looking for on campus. And I think in both spaces, you'll find people that are open to feedback about what you want out of your Jewish experience. Both Hillel and Chabad, in my experience, are committed to making you feel at home, to having homey, comfortable, friendly Shabbat and holiday dinners and service experiences, if that's what you're looking for, learning opportunities, travel opportunities. One difference that I can speak to is that our Hillel is very deeply rooted in pluralism. The Chabad on our campus is a very welcoming space. We work together quite well. We're neighbors, almost next door to one another. But in our Hillel, we offer many different types of Shabbat and holiday experiences that align with different denominations of Judaism, be they Reform, Conservative, Reconstructionist. We have some independent Minyanim services that students have created with particular experiences that they're looking for or they want to create or experiment with. At Chabad, you'll find one central communal service that's much more traditional and follows a more directly Orthodox guidelines. That being said, we have a very, very large modern Orthodox community at Columbia and Barnard. And there are students that spend Shabbat flitting back and forth between the two organizations. There are students that find a home in one, and that's for them. I don't think that anyone has to go to school thinking, I'm going to be a Hillel person or I'm going to be a Chabad person. The more the merrier. We want everybody to be involved in Jewish life, to find the opportunities that work for them. And it's okay if that happens at a lot of different organizations.
Not much to add there, but what I will do is I'm gonna step out of turn here, and I'm gonna turn it on Matan and Brandon because they're actually on the ground, and I think they would have a great insight from their experience of what and why and how they navigate the relationship. Because it sounds from what they've shared that they're quite active in both. So I'd love to hear from myself even from them.
So as Nava mentioned, there are a lot of students on a lot of campuses that go back and forth between the two of them. For me, I tend to gravitate towards Hillel over Chabad, but at the same time, I do feel very welcome and very comfortable at Chabad, and I feel that the community is very open and welcoming. And there are times when I will go to Shabbat or Friday night Shabbat services at one, and I will go to dinner at the other. And sometimes it's not the same combination of the two. Sometimes those two flip. I think really it's important wherever you are, because organizations vary so widely from campus to campus, to try things, to not just try one, but to try Hillel, Chabad, and I think anything else that you have the opportunity to try, and not just try each of them once, right? I would say at minimum once a year, because communities change. College by its nature has a huge turnover rate. And frankly, people change over the course of a year. So you could go in September to Hillel and really not like people. And you could go back in May and meet your best friend. Yeah, I would just say it's important to try, and to try a lot, and to try often.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what Matan just said, because so my first experience with Jewish life on campus was I was walking from class to my dorm, and I saw the Chabad table. I was like, I should probably just check it out. Walked over and ended up wrapping tefillin in the middle of Turlington, which is kind of just the middle of campus, and walked back to my dorm like nothing even happened. But then after that, I think a week later, Hillel had like a little pizza party in the dorm next to mine. So I went over there and met a bunch of people, really just laid back thing. So I would say there really, at UF at least, isn't much of a difference. It's kind of just where your friends ended up going. Like one Friday I could end up at Chabad because that's where my friends ended up going. Another Friday I end up at Hillel because that's where those people ended up going. So yeah, it really just depends on what the feeling is that night. And yeah, that's mostly it.
I would also add that I personally grew up as a Chabad child. I was probably a little brat that ran around bugging everybody, but I gravitated personally to Chabad because it was just the place that I felt comfortable. A lot of Chabads do operate out of a home, like a house, instead of a building. And I know that some students have expressed they love that. Whereas at a Hillel, you might see like they have a pool table, or they've got study spaces as well as Chabad, but there's a lot of great opportunities at both. So I wanted to ask an Israel question. So a lot of you have talked about Israel a little bit, but students go to college and they say, I'm going to go on birthright. But I'm not sure that all students understand birthright. They know that's a free trip to Israel. For whoever wants to answer this, I know that Rachel, you know a lot about it too. What is birthright, and what should students know going into birthright or going to college about the birthright experience that you wish students knew more about?
Yeah, birthright is a gift. That is what we say. It is a 2-week trip to Israel where you get to explore the sites and get to know the country a little bit. I think the cool thing about birthright is that it's really just your introduction to Israel. You're not going to get everything that you want just on that trip. It's really a first step into the very complicated and interesting and awesome world of Israel. And I would say, explore birthright, but also explore other Israel opportunities provided on your campus, like Maccabi task force trips, or an onward internship experience, or potentially a study abroad experience through Masa. But birthright is just the beginning, and there's many different options of how you can go on Birthright. You can go with your campus Hillel, you can go on a national trip, which we call tribe trips, or you can go on a niche trip, and there's a ton of options. If you're interested in arts and culture, if you're interested in food, if you're interested in whatever it might be, you can go on the website and see all of the different options that Birthright has for your specific interests.
I know, Mendy, there's a Chabad trip for Birthright too, correct?
Yes. So Birthright is an independent organization which administers trips. They have many, many different providers. And I know, Hillel has and Chabad has, and there are other independents. Some of them are specifically focused on activism or on internship type, more selective. Some of them are just, ragtag put together, and it changes. They don't always have the same ones available. So Chabad and Hillel will have theirs, pretty much in the mainstay, and then others come and go for whatever reasons. So there are so many different experiences, and a lot of the trip is really dictated by Birthright. So there's not a whole lot of flexibility. But that being said, there are nuanced differences which are important. So I think it's important to really look at the different options and to really understand and have a sense of what you'd like to get out of the trip as well. The idea of Birthright, like was mentioned, there's a point of Birthright is that you should have an introduction to Israel and to understand, why Israel was founded and when, and some of the basics, and also to kind of have an opportunity to spend time with other like-minded Jewish students who have never been to Israel before and kind of have that communal experience. So it's a really, really, really great opportunity. And I think the more people spend time kind of preparing themselves for the trip, the more they can get out of the trip. So it's not just, oh, here's a free trip to Israel. Hey, let's go to Israel, and somebody's paying for it. It's really, really a fantastic opportunity that should be cherished and really, really, prepared for. And so I take your time and really get the most you can out of it.
Yeah, I can just add that you definitely should do your research when choosing the right Birthright trip for you. If you're lucky enough to be on a campus with a well-established Hillel or Chabad that has an ongoing trip and people that you're comfortable with, that could be an obvious choice. If you're not in that situation, the trip providers can vary pretty widely, and you definitely want to do your research. I was lucky enough to have a lot of Israel experiences in my life, and so my first time on a Birthright trip was staffing a Birthright trip, and I didn't quite know until I was on that trip. I didn't quite get how they could pack in a real introduction to Israel in 10 days. And it's a miraculous trip. It's a beautifully orchestrated trip when it's done well. It really is a gift, as Rachel said. And so the other thing I would say is, since there are so many opportunities on campuses right now to visit Israel, make sure if you are Birthright eligible that you're able to utilize that gift and that you don't lose out on it by taking advantage of another Israel trip first. I want you to go to Israel as many times as you want to go to Israel. And that means you should go on Birthright first so that you can then go on other trips. If you go on those other trips, you may no longer be Birthright eligible.
But also, there are certain other trips that are definitely worthwhile, right? Like I took a gap year in Israel, and that made me ineligible for Birthright, and I'm fine with that because I had a gap year in Israel. And yes, if you're weighing a week or a 2-week trip against what is Birthright's 2 weeks, 10 days, it varies. If you're weighing a 2-week trip against a 2-week trip, then yeah, do Birthright first. But if you're weighing a 2-week trip against something significantly longer, then there is definitely some thinking that I think should be done there.
And could any of you talk a little bit about the application process and what that looks like? I personally have never been to Birthright. I've done a few more trips, kind of like Matan was talking about, but if you could explain a little bit about the application process, and can students apply as freshmen too?
Yeah, I can explain a little bit more about that. So as was mentioned before, there are a few different trip organizers, but if you go onto Birthright's website and you fill out an application, it's really easy. You just fill out your basic information, and then each trip provider has a little bit different of a process, but Generally, you will have some sort of one-on-one conversation with your organizer. It may be through a professional on your campus, and you will fill out your information in the application. It'll ask you a little bit about your religious background, a little bit about why you want to go on the trip, and that trip organizer will be in touch with you to talk about what to do for next steps. I don't know if anyone else has any other pieces that I'm missing that they wanted to add.
Sounds like you did a great job, Rachel. So we got a question from one of our callers. So the question is, how does Hillel, Chabad, or a Jewish fraternity encourage non-Jewish students or brothers to be involved in an organization like Hillel or Chabad, or how do either organization support students that aren't Jewish but maybe are involved or encouraged or interested in the Jewish community?
So I think that's a two-part question, and I'll take it in its two halves. For our part at Columbia and Barnard, Hillel's open to everyone. It's a space for all students on campus, undergrad and grad. There are lots of spaces to study, lots of spaces to hang out, lots of reservable spaces for Shabbat meals and things like that. We welcome all students to our Shabbat meals, to our holiday meals, to our learning and events, whether or not they're Jewish, whether or not they're interested in becoming Jewish. There's no pressure, there's no proselytizing. It's just, if people are interested in learning about the Jewish community, or if they just want to come have a delicious meal with a friend, that's totally possible. And when you get a little bit deeper into the involvement, we have a lot of smaller learning cohorts that often meet in staff members' houses and apartments and go to them for Shabbat. It's more rare, I would say, for a non-Jewish student to get involved in those, but we really don't want to put up any barriers. If people have an academic interest, a communal interest in learning about the Jewish community, that's totally fine with us. And when it comes to Greek organizations, especially, for us with ZBT, we right now have a ZBT chapter that is predominantly non-Jewish, though the Jewish members are very involved in the Jewish community. And they have brotherhood dinners every Friday night. Once a month, those dinners come to Hillel for Shabbat dinner. And we are super happy to see them and make no differentiation between the Jewish brothers and the non-Jewish brothers. They've chosen to be part of an organization that's historically Jewish. They're proud of that. We want them to be proud of that. And so we welcome them with open arms.
I think there is a heritage chair, I believe, or it's a position. There are heritage grants that are available specifically at ZBT, and probably in some of the other traditionally Jewish Greek institutions have similar type things that are available. So there is some funding that's available for the brothers, and I'm sure the same in sororities, that they can have the ability to bring in and have interesting events. We've done things like matzah bakery, chauffeur factory, Friday night dinners in the house, and that's open up. It's on their territory, so it's a little bit more encouraging for people to get involved and things like that. So what the brothers can actually do to encourage them is have more Jewish events. We've had classes in the ZBT or other Greek life, houses or suites as they are at the University of Miami, and sometimes it's a just a question and answer, kind of like a Spitfire, stump the rabbi type event. Sometimes it was after, whether or not it may have been after a tragedy, unfortunately, or whether it was some other current events where students in general wanted to get a Jewish perspective, and that ability to kind of learn about how things are done in the Jewish community, and that's one way, which is certainly great. Of course, Nava mentioned getting involved in coming to programs, Chabad, Hillel, all the other organizations. It's a university, everything's open, and people have a great way is always experiential learning. So when you're going to come in and you're going to actually have a Friday night dinner, or you're going to sit through a Jewish program, you're going to experience it differently. Specifically ZBT, I think, because it is I believe it's the first Jewish fraternity. It's founded on Jewish principles, and those principles, like I said, I've been to 3 ZBT conferences, and the past 3 ZBT conferences, and it plays a big role. When you walk down the hall, you see the founders. what they stood for, why the fraternity was open. And I think they're already learning and absorbing a lot of what Judaism is about, and a lot of the morals and the ethics and the beauty of Judaism, and why ZBT was founded, but they may not be seeing it in that light. So I think one of the ways to do that is by kind of illustrating why ZBT was founded and explaining this is not just a worldly ideal, but this was going on historically at the time, and giving it that context. It gives it a little bit more opportunity for people to really understand that what this is all about. So I think there's already a lot of it going on, but it may just not be packaged in that way. So just experiential learning, doing more things in the brotherhood spaces, and really pointing out the Jewish values that are already being shared.
I think it's also important to mention that teaching about Judaism is a wonderful and very special opportunity, but it is also a wonderful and special opportunity to learn about other religions. And Rav Mendy mentioned that ZBT has a heritage chair. I'm the heritage chair of my chapter. And though my my time as heritage chair was cut a little bit short due to the world, I was planning, and still planning, when we go back to campus to use heritage chair as a place for discussion about religion and about faith and about tradition, not just having to do with Judaism, but having to do with that of all of the brothers of my chapter, and for that matter, everyone at my college.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So the next question I want to ask, I think we all have some share in. So it's about Greek life. So whether you are part of a Jewish Greek organization or a Greek organization that had a lot of Jewish students in it, what role do you feel Greek life plays in the Jewish community?
I would say that Jewish Greek life kind of is its own Jewish community on campus. And it's more or less like, if you're in a Jewish Greek organization or a non-Jewish Greek organization with a lot of Jewish friends, like I said, like, you're gonna kind of all do the same things. So if you're going to Hillel for services this weekend, or you're doing a program that Chabad's running, like, you're gonna be doing that with brothers or with your sisters, and you're gonna kind of, like, for example, like being on the Jewish Greek Council, like, we're kind of planning events that any Jewish person can come to, but as Jewish Greeks, we're kind of just working together to do all of that for anyone who wants to be a part of it.
I can speak from my college experience. I was in a chapter that wasn't Jewish, but I had other sisters that were Jewish, and we became really close. I developed some of my best friendships with those girls. But relating back to the previous question that was asked, there were also a good number of people in the chapter who weren't Jewish, and I made some of my best friends through those relationships as well. And we were able to exchange our values, Jewish or non-Jewish, with that Greek life basis. So it was a good opportunity for that.
I think that depending on the campus and how Greek life is perceived by the administration, and how active they are in the general campus activities, but in many instances, Greek life is kind of the engine behind a lot of what goes on in student government and social justice kind of things. Because when you have a lot of people, it was mentioned before, when you have a lot of people in one group and they get behind something, it has a lot more power than when you're just individuals. And what ends up happening is that when they see things that are important to a community, so if Greek life is actively involved in things like religious life, then that becomes more popular on campus. It becomes something that people look towards. So again, depending on the campus, some campuses have Greek life that aren't super active in the general campus community. They kind of stay to themselves, and then it's kind of has a different role in Jewish life and before, because it's just smaller groups and they go together and they do their thing. But as a powerhouse on the campuses, if you're on a campus where Greek life is really front and center to social activities and to how campus life is lived, it really, when you have a year where Greek life is really super involved, then you see Jewish causes. I mean, speaking specifically for the Jewish community, then you see the Jewish causes really great. So if you're in a year, we spoke about before about birthright. If your Greek life in a particular year is super active and going on birthright, you can have a tremendous amount of students going on birthright together and then coming back and then taking those experiences that they had together and then translating them. So it can play a huge role on that level. And if not, it still can play a very large role because, again, you have a large number of people in one area, in one frame of mind, and that always is a good recipe for success.
I think it really depends on the campus. And a campus like UF, where Greek life is so dominant, and there are many other campuses like it, Jewish life can center on Greek life because people are living in houses for the most part. They can have a communal experience all together, and that can be the central experience of where they meet their Jewish friends, what their Jewish experiences are like, even on some holidays and experiences like that. And Hillel and Chabad can be almost like a bonus. I happen to think a very important bonus, but they might not be the centrality of the Jewish experience for those students. On a campus like mine, Greek life is popular, but it's by no means dominant. And so I think there's much more of a free exchange between Hillel and the Greek organizations. So on the one hand, there can be students who are very involved in Hillel and in the Jewish community who make the decision to go through recruitment because they have friends who are involved in Greek organizations and they realize, oh, this can be another way to connect with those friends. This could be a way to meet the friends of those friends. And since I like those people, I'll probably like their friends. And on the flip side, it can also be a way for people who are less connected to the Jewish community to get involved in the community when they say, oh, I have a friend from my Greek organization who goes to Shabbat dinner every week, or I have a friend who's involved in what on our campus is called the TAP Fellowship. Other campuses might be a Jewish Greek Council or something like that. And they're interested in planning a DIY Passover Seder in our house, or they're interested in planning something as a precursor to an Israel trip. That doesn't seem as scary or intimidating, even though I don't know that many people in the Jewish community, because I have my friends from a Greek organization who can join me in that experience. So I think it really can go both ways. And Hillel can be a conduit towards people getting involved, or Jewish communal life in general can be a conduit toward people getting involved in Jewish Greek organizations. But the Greek organizations can also be a way in for people to the broader community with sort of a safety net of the people that they already know from their fraternity or sorority.
Now, to build off that question, this might be more for Matan and Brandon, but I think everybody could potentially answer it. What are the benefits to joining a Jewish fraternity or sorority over joining a non-Jewish fraternity or sorority? If there are any benefits, in your opinions, what are your thoughts?
It really depends on what you're looking for, but I would say something that I've got out of being in a Jewish fraternity is, I mean, my whole life I was a NIFTY kid, so I was Jewish summer camp, going to NIFTY events. I was just always surrounded by Jewish life. So continuing that in college it's basically like joining ZBT allowed me to continue that throughout college and then finding my way from there. So like my big is really involved in Hillel, so like I meet him at Hillel all the time just to like study or whatever. So I would say that it just kind of helps you do whatever you think you need to do as a Jewish student, and it's just another door that is open now.
At Muhlenberg, the student population is between 20 and 30% Jewish. So most of the Greek organizations feel a little bit like they are Jewish Greek organizations. But I do still feel that there is significant value in joining one that has its roots in tradition. I, like Brandon, grew up involved in Jewish youth groups. I was in USY. I went to Ramah camp. And I think that ZBT, just by virtue of educating all the brothers, at least to some degree, on Jewish tradition and on Jewish life, it's really created a space where I can interact with people, be them Jewish or not, who get me. They get where I'm coming from. They understand at least my religious upbringing, and in my case, I feel I have a lot in common with a lot of the guys in my chapter, so they understand most of my upbringing. I think that look, if you're interested in Greek life, you should go into what you're comfortable joining. Right? If the Greek organization that is Jewish on your campus makes you feel uncomfortable, then don't join it. But at the same time, if it doesn't, then and you're interested, then I think it's a really great opportunity to explore.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Like, quite obviously, I wouldn't be spending my Wednesday night here if I weren't in ZBT.
You make a good point, Brandon. Any other thoughts about Jewish Greek life? All right, so I want to end this awesome conversation with what every Jewish mother wants to know. What are the Jewish holidays like on campus? How can my son or daughter celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Pesach, Sukkot? What do the Jewish holidays look like on college campuses? And also, does it cost any money?
I think every campus, in terms of last question first question last, does it cost money? Typically, no. But then again, as mentioned many times, every campus is a little different. There may be some that for whatever reason may have a small fee. And if they do, they all have provisions made for those who can't afford or reduced rates. And in any event, it wouldn't be all that much. So nobody should ever have to worry that they won't be able to find somewhere where they can go. In some of the smaller schools that may be linking up students with local synagogues or with local families or things like that. But in the larger, more established schools, you're going to have at Chabad or at Hillel or at any of the other organizations, you're going to have a number of services, and you're going to have a number of meals and opportunities that are available. So there's always going to be something on every campus that's going to be available for the holidays. You do the best you can. It's not home. We all know that how important the holidays are in terms of family, and especially you've grown up 18 years and you've gone home. You've been home with your grandparents, your uncles, your synagogue, your friends, and that's kind of like a special time. And now you're on campus, and it's different. And so I know, speaking for Chabad, and I'm sure this is the same with Hillel and all the other organizations, really try to make students feel as much as home as possible, whether it's the kind of meal that's going to be brisket and matzah balls. It's not going to be your grandmother's matzah balls, but they'll be good and you'll enjoy them. But, it really, and I think it's a great question, because I think a lot of what we discussed and sense of family and a sense of belonging. I think you feel that during the holidays more than ever. So a lot of programs that are done, and you do probably have events and Shabbat and classes and all the other, and Israel, everything goes along, but so much of Judaism is the home. The majority of Judaism is the home, and the home is felt most at the holidays. So you're going to feel that feeling of family the most at the holidays. And sometimes that's, when you speak to students, you say, so when is it that you fell in love with the Jewish community? When is it that you got involved with the Jewish community on campus? When is it that you started to look? I mean, I knew going in that I had to look for the Jewish community. I knew I'd do something Jewish, but when did you actually go out and do something about it? It's the holidays. So, the holidays are a really important time, and there's so much available. And so if you don't, for whatever reason, get a chance because you got busy and you were moving in and the books and you had to switch classes and you were just getting used to everything, and before you knew it, a month went by and you still haven't done anything Jewish, don't feel like it's too late and the semester's already in. No, that's a great time to come. It's a great opportunity to really feel what Jewish life on campus is all about. And at the end of the day, it's all about family.
Yeah, I would say 100% I agree with everything Rabbi Felig said. We do everything we can to help students feel that they are at home and that they have a home with us. And that can look like a lot of different things to different students. So there are students that may feel like they are in a position where they have to be in classes on the holidays, either with the support of their family or without. And so we have stations set up all over campus to make sure that on Rosh Hashanah, for instance, they can eat apples and honey and hear the shofar and really have a feeling of holiday. For a lot of our upper class students on our campus, they live in their own apartments or suite style apartment housing. So if they want to host their own meals and have their own holiday experiences, we want to support them in creating those. For other people who want the big, massive 200-person dinner for Rosh Hashanah or for Passover, we offer that too. So there's really something for everyone. We want people to feel at home in the way that makes sense for them. And I would just say, to the Jewish mothers out there, don't worry. And even we, in our case, and I've heard about cases like this at a lot of other campuses, we have alumni who come back year after year for our Yom Kippur services, for our Yom Kippur davening, because it happens to be incredibly beautiful and meaningful and spiritual for those students. And I think a lot of those parents, when the kids graduate, are like, wait a second, we thought you would be coming back to us, and we thought you didn't like Yom Kippur. And all of a sudden, it's something that has become really special to them. So don't worry, moms of the world, we've got you covered. We're not trying to take your place, but we look forward to helping your students create a home on campus.
I think I'd just add, taking Yom Kippur as an excellent example. I really like Yom Kippur in general. Muhlenberg is great. We have a wonderful Chabad, a wonderful Hillel. There's a modern Orthodox shul, 5-minute walk from campus. There is a Reform shul kind of on campus, like directly across the street from the edge of campus, and it's a small campus. But myself and others who really enjoy Yom Kippur just did not feel fulfilled last year. And so now we are working in collaboration with Hillel, with Chabad, to make opportunities for services that are geared more towards students, more towards learning, more towards the various different student dynamics and student groups that exist on campus. We were planning it before coronavirus existed, or before it was on our radar, certainly, and now we're planning it to be socially distanced. Or really, I feel that holidays on campus are, at least at Muhlenberg, great, and from what I understand from friends at other campuses across America, also can be really enjoyable. And if you don't think they're enjoyable, again, reach out to people, because there are professionals on campus who want you to have the most meaningful experience that you can.
Just to go off that, like, there's a lot of talk about family and home, and this is kind of like student to incoming student. There was, I think it was for breaking the fast, we had a philanthropy event, like at another sorority that we were at, a few of me and my brothers, and it was like maybe an hour before that we had to get there. Like, the event ended an hour before the fast started, so we had to like run to our dorm, like shower really quick, and then we realized that we took way too long, so we were like sprinting over to Hillel in t-shirts, and everyone else is dressed up, and we felt so out of place. We're like, are they gonna let us in? Like, so worried. And we walked in, no one even said anything besides hi, of course. They welcomed us right in. We didn't have anything to worry about. So it really is like, they're just so welcoming no matter what. They want you to have a place to feel welcomed.
Amazing. So lastly, I would love to leave some time for you all to provide any last minute statements or pieces of advice that you'd offer incoming Jewish students that maybe you wish you knew, or that you'd like Jewish students to know about Jewish life on college campuses.
I'll start here, if that's okay. The world belongs to the youth, and the next generation of the Jewish community is in the hands of the incoming class and the students that are there today. You're really going to make the differences. You're going to create the Jewish families, and you're going to take Judaism to the next generation. So you need to make that important in your life, and this is the time to make your own. Till now, you were living at home, and your Judaism was very much directed by what you were kind of told to do, because you do things as a family. When you go to college, there's nobody that's going to be telling you that you have to do anything. They may be, nudging you, and you may hear from your grandmother from time to time. But still in all, it's up to you to make that happen. And that's, it can be scary, but it's also tremendously empowering. So what I would leave you off with is really, really spend the 40, and then it goes by quick. You think it's gonna, oh, yeah, tomorrow we'll get to it. We'll make it important. It's on my list. It goes by quick. And the one thing you don't want to hear, and we hear it unfortunately too often, is when you talk to a senior or you talk to a junior, and they say, "I wish I would have gotten involved earlier. I really could have used this at point X or point Y. It really would have changed my college experience." And take advantage of what's being offered here. Take advantage of the time that you have, and really grow into your own.
I can go off of that. I would just say I agree with everything that was just said, and just try everything. Try new things when you're on campus, and you'll figure out what's right for you and what fits into your life and how you want to make different things a practice. But I know for me, part of the reason why I loved my college experience was because I tried things that I didn't think I would try, and I figured out what stuck and what didn't stick. And I took chances and pushed myself to do things that I didn't think I would do. And I had a really amazing college experience because of that.
Yeah, I would say it's never too early and it's never too late. If you are watching this and you are looking into schools, or you're watching this and you're an incoming first year, great. Now's the time, whether you know where you're going or not, reach out to the Jewish organizations on your campus, or any organizations on your campus that you may want to be involved in. I know it might feel awkward to send that email or walk in that door. Literally what we're here for, and we are waiting for you. We are excited to meet you. So it's never too early to put in that first call, that first email, that first message, and get the ball rolling on the ways that you want to be involved. But it's also never too late. We have students all the time who get involved based on a fluke in their junior or their senior year, and then they make the most of it, and they will be involved for the rest of the time that they're on campus, and then as young alumni off campus, and then later in other ways. So never feel, no matter when in your college journey you're seeing this, never feel like it's too early or too late to get involved in the Jewish community. We're here for you. We're excited to meet you.
I would add that you can always leave. Like, I have certainly left programs at both Hillel and Chabad because I wasn't enjoying them. But I think it is far better to try and leave early than, and no one will judge you for doing that, trust me, than to regret not having tried. As Nava said, you can always try. It's never too late to. But at the same time, try early, because the sooner you try, the more that you can get out of it.
Something I've heard pretty much every week in college is you get out what you put into it. So if you go into it and you're like, oh, I'm not gonna waste my time going to Hillel, like I don't think I'm gonna like it, just try it, just see what you get. And whether you're out of state and know nobody, or you're in state and you know everyone in your class, just try it. Like, there's gonna be someone there for you to make you feel comfortable, and it's just a great experience.
And you can never get enough free Shabbat meals. So I want to thank everybody on this call for joining in, and for all the great advice you provided our students and provided everyone watching this. If anybody has any questions watching this and wants to learn more, please feel free to reach out to your local Hillel, Chabad, the organization that you're going to, that's on your campus, Jewish fraternity, sorority. We're all here to help and want to make sure that you can be successful. Remember, a Jewish community is exactly that. It's a community, a place for you to feel at home. Thank you again for joining, and we hope you have a great college experience.